I'm really excited to talk about short-term rentals today on Marco Island because our newest elected city councilman, Darrin Palumbo, is here to talk about that. Because before the election, Darrin, it was a very hot topic.
Well, I'm glad you're excited. Most people weren't through this process.
Yeah.
It was probably the number one decision-making process for those that voted with short-term rentals. I had spoken in great detail about water quality and future growth as the things we need to look at.
Right.
Because we would get short-term rentals figured out.
Sure.
But it certainly was the hot topic by all means.
Yeah. Well, and I think the struggle is now we're sitting here a few months later. We had a storm. The world kind of went upside down. Marco Island survived brilliantly. But there's a lot of mis or disinformation out there about what is actually happening with owners that own properties that they have short-term rentals.
Real quick, big shout out to not only our first responders. Yes. A lot of our community doesn't realize it's even the staff within the city, not titled first responders, that do a phenomenal job, put their lives at risk.
Yes.
So there's so many other departments, although police, fire, rescue are the ones that get the popular nod. Yeah. There is planning boards. There are, in the permitting department, there's our city manager and assistant manager, a lot of people that literally stayed here and put their lives at risk for us. So we are lucky to have them. And we did come through with shining colors.
Totally.
Short-term rentals. I would say defer to the last city council meeting on Monday for a wealth of information.
And that was Monday, February.
That was just last Monday, 2 days ago.
2 days ago. Okay, February 5th, maybe?
Was, yes, I believe. Forgive me. They all seem to blur together.
Sure.
So the big topic there, not to get too deep into it, but there was some language in the state statute adopted into the rental ordinance that spilled this ordinance over, for lack of a better term, to rentals that might be 30 days or over. I don't think it was by design. It was just by statute. So for those people that are deciding to rent their property for 30 days or longer, be at ease. We clarified the language, and as a city, we clarified that they're not going to be affected.
Okay.
This is strictly for 30 days or less.
Okay.
So that was our city was getting a lot of emails on that. Dr. Casey Lucius, our assistant city manager, who did a great job with this. She was put into a tough situation. She had crafted some of the language and with the city attorney helped fix it. So that's one thing we don't need to worry about.
Good.
What will we be addressing in the future is going to be still some topics to talk about. The noise ordinance. There's a little separate set of rules for those in short-term rentals and those who are not. The council agreed to speak about this on a later date.
Okay.
So that'll be coming up. And there certainly is probably some fine-tuning that may need to be done. As with any of our ordinances over time, we change them to reflect the needs of the community.
Sure.
The needs of the first responders, the police, the code enforcement, to make sure they could properly implement it. So I don't want to say I don't have all the information. There's still going to be some work in progress.
Sure.
If you go to the city has a dedicated page for it, and they'll tell you the startup dates.
Okay.
And they're really looking to roll it out, the estimated cost. So don't quote me, I'd say, I don't want to give you a number, 90% into completion or getting started.
Okay.
That'd be, in my opinion.
So we still have some work to do, but we're kind
a little bit of things to fine tune.
But yeah, I think the biggest question that I get as a realtor from my clients that own short-term rentals is, am I going to be stripped away from my right to rent my property short-term?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Is it going to be a little more cumbersome? Yes.
More rules.
Are there more rules to follow?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I had campaigned. I thought this version of a needed ordinance was a little long, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But this is what is the law of the land now. So we will work to make it as smooth and seamless as possible. Here's an example of a change. I think it was Councilman Grafoni that brought it up. If your application is in to the city, for a short-term rental, your registration is in, but it's not approved yet.
Yeah.
In the original draft, you would not be allowed to rent.
Okay.
In the updated draft, now, as long as your application is in process, we are not going to fault you if the city couldn't get to it yet. So you will be allowed to until that application is processed.
Nice.
So there's certainly some mechanisms that we put in place to make it fair for all.
Yeah.
And as I said, I know there are some that really want to limit those that come to the island. My belief is, short-term rentals are legal.
Yeah.
Florida allows them. So we need to have a set of rules that invites people on our terms.
Sure.
And protects neighbors and protects communities.
Sure.
I certainly understand. It's hard to have a brand new neighbor every day of your life.
Yeah.
And I understand technology's made it that way. We can't outlaw it, so we can only govern it.
Sure.
So rest assured, sorry, for those folks,
Yeah.
they're not going to be disallowed to do a rental.
Love that. I think that's the biggest thing. The takeaway here is you're still going to get to use your property as a short term. There's going to be some rules, which is what we thought before. Noise, parking, garbage, things that we all deal with, even if we live here full time. But that's being a good neighbor.
Well, speaking truthfully to the public, you are going to have some neighbors that are very regimented with the ordinance, want to follow every rule. I don't want to call them the condo police, but they're going to want it followed to protect their peace of mind.
Yeah.
So I would say if you are a short-term rental, make sure you have somebody in place to bring your garbage in.
Sure.
Just follow all the rules and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you have these mechanisms in place. And if you play by those rules, you're allowed to invite people to the island on our terms.
Yeah.
And to infuse a little money in the economy, have a good time, maybe eventually become our neighbors and buy a house from you.
Well, we hope that this is helpful and giving you some more insight, because it is a lot of questions that I get on a day-to-day basis. Until next time, I'm Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group. And as always, if you love this content, make sure that you subscribe and, more importantly, hit the notification so you can see more content from Darrin.
Thanks, Mary.